Hidden deep beneath the sands of Pakistan, there's this ghost of a glorious past. We're talking about a city that's older than most of the ancient wonders you can think of. It thrived for centuries, and then, poof, it just vanished. So today, we're diving into the story of Mohenjo-Daro and the absolutely massive mystery it left behind.
I mean, that's the big question, right? How does an entire thriving civilization just disappear? It's genuinely one of history's greatest cold cases. I mean, how could a city this advanced be totally wiped from our collective memory for thousands of years? It's wild.
All right, so our modern story with this lost world, it doesn't start way back in ancient times. Nope, it starts much more recently, in the 1920s, with a discovery that was about to change everything we thought we knew about ancient history.
So picture this. It's the 1920s. An archaeologist named Arti Banerjee is working near the Indus River, and he comes across these strange mounds of baked brick. His team starts digging, and they're not finding some small village. No way. They're unearthing actual streets, super advanced drainage systems, even multi-story homes. This wasn't just a discovery. It was the revelation of an entire lost civilization, the Indus Valley civilization suddenly taking its place right alongside ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Just incredible.
The name they gave the site? Mohenjo-Daro. And in the local language, that translates to the Mound of the Dead. Kinda chillin', right? But long before it got that name, back around 2500 BCE, this place was a buzzing metropolis. And it was so advanced, it honestly feels like it was pulled straight out of the future.
Okay, so let's try to picture it. Imagine you could walk down these streets 4,500 years ago. What you would have seen? It would have been absolutely revolutionary. Mind-blowing, really.
This city was a total masterpiece of urban planning. We're talking streets laid out in a perfect grid. The houses, they were built from these uniform baked bricks, which, by the way, was a huge technological leap, making them waterproof and super durable. And these houses had multiple stories, their own private wells, and get this, their own bathrooms. And all of it was connected by a citywide covered drainage network. Just an incredible feat of engineering. And the crown jewel was the Great Bath, this massive public tank that was probably used for rituals.
Okay, let's put this into perspective for a second. Every single home in Mohenjo-Daro had an advanced sanitation system, all hooked up to a citywide grid. A level of public hygiene like that wouldn't become common in major European cities for another, wait for it, 4,000 years. That's just staggering to think about. But you know what's just as telling as what they did have? It's what they didn't have. Archaeologists haven't found any huge palaces or grand temples to gods or kings, and there are very few weapons. It really seems to point to a society that cared more about cleanliness, order, and maybe even equality than it did about war or glorifying rulers. They put their energy into infrastructure for everyone, not monuments to a powerful few. That's a philosophy a lot of cities are still trying to get right today.
All right, so we've talked about the city itself, but what about the people who actually lived there? Let's peel back the layers and look at the life, the trade, and the code they left behind. From what we can tell, the people of Mohenjo-Daro were really skilled artisans, peaceful farmers, and amazing traders. They grew cotton, they wore beautiful gold ornaments, and they built this booming economy on international trade. How do we know? Well, their unique seals, kind of like a company logo, have been found all the way over in Mesopotamia, that's modern-day Iraq, which means they were probably expert sailors, crossing long distances by sea. And we get these little glimpses into their culture from artifacts they left behind, like the famous dancing girl and priest king sculptures. But they also left behind their biggest secret of all, their writing. It's called the Indus script, and you find it on thousands of these little seals and bits of pottery. And here's the thing, it's one of history's greatest unsolved puzzles. We have never deciphered it. We literally cannot read their words. Their stories, their beliefs, their history, it's all locked away inside a 4,000-year-old code that we just can't seem to crack.
And that brings us right back to the central mystery, doesn't it? The Great Disappearance. Around 1900 BCE, after all this time, all this prosperity, things started to go wrong. The civilization went into decline. Trade just stopped. The great cities were abandoned, and Mohenjo-Daro was left to the wind and the sand. The big question is, why?
Well, when you look at this 4,000-year-old cold case, there are four main theories. Theory 1, invasion. Maybe Aryan tribes swept in, but there's not a lot of evidence for a major battle. Theory 2, climate change. A massive, long-term drought could have turned their fertile lands to dust, and their agriculture would have just collapsed. Theory 3, a natural disaster. A huge flood from the Indus River, or maybe a powerful earthquake. Or, Theory 4, disease. Something silent like a pandemic that just swept through and caused a quiet collapse. The honest truth? It was probably not just one thing. It was likely a perfect storm of these factors that finally pushed this amazing civilization over the edge.
And the scene is just eerie. There are no signs of a big war, no mass graves, no burned-down buildings. What we find are just scattered skeletons in the streets, as if one day life just stopped. It's the quietness of it all that's so incredibly chilling. So even though the city itself vanished, its echoes, they haven't. And that makes you wonder, what can this ancient place, buried under all that sand and silence, still teach us today?
Well, for one thing, we have to remember we've really only scratched the surface. I mean, after 100 years of digging, we've only excavated about a third of the entire site. Think about that. 2/3 of its secrets, maybe even the answer to why it collapsed, are still down there, just waiting to be found.
And what we have found, it's a huge reality check. It's a powerful reminder that our modern ideas aren't always so modern after all. Things like planned cities, public sanitation, basic hygiene, these weren't our inventions. The people of the Indus Valley had mastered them thousands of years ago. And that really leaves us with one last, kind of sobering thought. Mohenjo-Daro is this incredible monument to human genius, but it's also a warning, a powerful warning. It reminds us that no civilization, no matter how advanced or sophisticated we think it is guaranteed to last forever. And so, the real question it leaves us with, buried in the sand, is this. What can a city that vanished 4,000 years ago teach us about the fragility of our own?